I didn't get my period for a year.
What?
I genuinely think K-pop's obsession with making female idols thinner and thinner has reached a point where we need to stop treating it like some harmless beauty standard and start talking about what it can actually do to a woman's body. And before somebody deliberately misunderstands what I'm saying, no, I am not saying every skinny woman is unhealthy. Some women are naturally very thin. Some women have small frames. You cannot diagnose somebody's health from a picture, a fan cam, or a waist measurement, and I am not going to sit here pointing at individual idols and pretending I know their medical records. What I am talking about is the system. The constant dieting, the pressure to lose weight before comebacks, the obsession with numbers on a scale, the way people praise female idols for becoming smaller even when they were already thin to begin with, and the way extreme restriction is sometimes treated like discipline instead of what it actually can become, a health problem. And this is not something people invented because they saw one skinny idol online. Female idols themselves have talked about extreme diets for years. Former trainees have described regular weigh-ins.
I didn't get my period for a year.
What? For a year?
I don't know if that's necessarily diet. I think that might just be stress.
Yeah, it can be like environmental stress, like change of environment, going on a diet.
Yeah,
Because
but
I
I
never
mean,
did
yeah.
that before. They took me to the gyno. I got hormone shots. It didn't work. And you know when I got it back finally? When I moved to Polaris and I had a month off before we started preparing for Ladies Code. It was just a month of relaxing, eating whatever I wanted, getting a lot of sleep, enjoying the free time I had. And then I debuted and
Stopped again?
Yeah, it stopped again.
Idols have talked about eating tiny amounts of food, collapsing after rapid weight loss, starving themselves as teenagers, and feeling like their career depended on staying small enough. So when people say, stop exaggerating, they're just naturally skinny, that completely ignores the fact that the industry itself has openly shown us how much pressure exists around weight. And one thing I think people seriously underestimate is what can happen to a woman's menstrual cycle when her body is chronically underfueled. Because your period is not just some annoying monthly inconvenience that exists to ruin your holiday plans. For a woman who normally menstruates naturally, the menstrual cycle can be one indicator of whether the reproductive hormone system is functioning normally. If somebody had regular periods and then suddenly stops having them after major weight loss, restrictive eating, excessive exercise, or severe stress, that can be a medical warning sign. Doctors literally have a name for one version of this: functional hypothalamic amenorrhea. When the body is not getting enough energy, or is dealing with excessive physical or psychological stress, the brain can reduce the hormonal signals involved in reproduction. Basically, the body starts looking at the energy budget and deciding where it can cut costs. Imagine your body saying, okay, we have enough resources to keep the lights on, keep the heart beating, and get through the day. But reproduction has been removed from the subscription package. That is not an achievement. That is not idle discipline. That can be the body conserving resources because it does not have enough energy to support everything normally. And the concern is not simply, oh no, she is not bleeding every month. That is where this conversation gets misunderstood. The issue is what can be happening hormonally underneath it. Low energy availability can interfere with estrogen and other hormones, and prolonged menstrual dysfunction can be associated with lower bone density and a higher risk of bone problems. And that matters massively in K-pop because these women are doing physically demanding work. They are dancing for hours, rehearsing for hours, jumping, touring, flying constantly, performing under hot lights, sleeping badly, filming content, doing interviews, attending fashion events, and then waking up to do it all again. Their bodies need energy. They need carbohydrates. They need fats. They need protein. They need enough calories to recover from all of that physical activity. You cannot expect somebody to perform like an athlete while feeding them like a decorative houseplant. And then people wonder why someone looks exhausted on stage. Why is she tired? Maybe because you want her to dance for 2 hours while surviving on the nutritional equivalent of 3 strawberries and positive thinking. And what makes this even more ridiculous is that sports medicine already understands this concept. There is something called relative energy deficiency in sport, or RED-S, which basically describes the negative effects that can happen when the energy someone consumes is not enough to cover exercise, plus everything the body needs to function properly. It can affect reproductive function, bone health, metabolism, immunity, cardiovascular health, psychological health, and even performance itself. So think about how stupid this is. The industry pressures performers to become smaller in the name of looking better on stage, while the exact behavior used to get them smaller can make them weaker, more tired, and worse at performing. Incredible business model. Please dance harder. Okay, can I eat enough to recover? No. And then some manager is confused when somebody gets injured. And yes, I know what people are going to say. Not every woman needs to have a monthly period to be healthy. Correct. Pregnancy can stop periods. Breastfeeding can stop periods. Menopause stops periods. Hormonal birth control can change or suppress bleeding. Certain medical conditions and treatments can affect menstruation. The monthly bleeding itself is not some magical detox process that every single woman has to experience forever, or she becomes unhealthy. That is not what I am saying. What I am specifically talking about is a woman who normally has a spontaneous menstrual cycle and then loses it because she is chronically under-eating, rapidly losing weight, or exercising so intensely that her normal hormonal function gets disrupted. That is completely different. And pretending that distinction does not exist because talking about female reproductive health makes somebody uncomfortable is ridiculous. Women's hormones matter. Menstrual health matters. Bone health matters. Reproductive function matters even if a woman never wants to have children. And I hate when people hear this conversation and immediately say, "Why are you reducing women to fertility?" I am not. Estrogen does not exist exclusively because somebody might want a baby someday. Your endocrine system interacts with your bones and with multiple systems throughout the body. Caring about menstrual health does not mean saying a woman's only purpose is reproduction. That is such a lazy interpretation of the argument. I am saying that when a normal biological function disappears because the body is not receiving enough energy, doctors take that seriously for a reason. And yet K-pop sometimes treats being as small as possible, like it is more important than whether the body is actually being given enough resources to function. For what? Seriously, for what? Does weighing 3 kilograms less improve the song? Does losing your period make you a better rapper? Does your uterus interfere with the choreography? Are the ovaries blocking the fan cam? Somebody please explain the artistic benefit to me. Because half the time, these women were already slim before somebody decided they needed to diet. That is what makes the standard so insane. A woman can already be thin and somebody will still find a screenshot where her thigh folds slightly because she sat down like a normal human being, and suddenly we have an international emergency.
A new investigative book shockingly claims that 8 out of 10 female trainees don't menstruate. It exposes the harsh reality behind K-pop's polished image, where extreme diets, exhaustion, and relentless pressure push young women's bodies beyond their limits in the pursuit of perfection. Journalist John Da-hyun's book, K-pop, Idols in Wonderland, exposes the harsh reality inside idol training academies. Trainees, some barely in middle school, rise before dawn and train past midnight. Many endure hunger, surviving on water, all to meet agency's relentless obsession with thinness and perfection. According to an insider, years of extreme dieting cause hormonal imbalances so severe that most female trainees stop menstruating. The condition, known as amenorrhea, can lead to infertility, weakened bones, and lifelong health problems, an invisible cost of chasing an impossible image. The book also reveals how constant evaluation and fear of failure leave trainees emotionally drained. Many sacrifice education, family ties, and personal identity, molded into a version of beauty and discipline defined by their agencies. Even after debuting, they continue with this difficult lifestyle.
She gained weight. She ate lunch. Calmed down. And then once she loses weight, everybody celebrates. Her visuals are insane. Her waist disappeared. Body goals? She looks so disciplined. Then if she becomes extremely thin, the same people suddenly switch sides and start saying, "Oh my God, somebody needs to help her." You people helped build the standard. That is the part that drives me insane. Female idols are basically playing a game where there is no winning body. Gain weight? People call you fat. Lose weight? Now you are too skinny. Gain muscle? Too masculine. Have curves? People sexualize you. Lose the curves? Now everybody is diagnosing you from screenshots. There is no version of the female body that the internet will leave alone. And companies know this. They know exactly how much discussion an idol's weight generates. They know fans zoom into waistlines. They know people compare old pictures to new pictures. They know weight loss becomes a headline. They know an idol can become more talked about simply because her body changed. And sometimes it genuinely feels like thinness itself has become part of the comeback concept. New hair, new makeup, new outfit, new album, and apparently new body. Why does every era need a physical transformation? Why can't the music be the transformation? Why does a woman's body have to become another promotional tool? And then fans reinforce it. Somebody loses weight, and suddenly there are 20,000 comments calling it a glow-up. Somebody gains a little weight, and now there are slow-motion edits comparing her face to 6 months ago. And then people wonder why idols develop anxiety around food. The pressure does not come from one place. It comes from companies, stylists, managers, fans, media outlets, and social media all feeding the same obsession. And before anybody says, "But maybe they chose to diet," yes, adults have agency, obviously. But choices do not exist outside of pressure. If your entire career depends on cameras, public comments, stylists, managers, and millions of strangers constantly analyzing your appearance, how free does that choice really feel? If every time you gain a little weight, people say you look lazy or unprofessional, then losing weight might technically be a choice. But let's not pretend there is no pressure influencing it. And another thing people need to understand is that you do not even have to look extremely underweight to be underfueled. Low energy availability can happen across different body sizes. Someone can look normal or even athletic and still not be consuming enough energy for the amount of activity their body is doing. So the obsession with appearance is even more pointless. You cannot know what is happening inside somebody's body based on whether you can see their ribs. Which makes it even more ridiculous that companies obsess over visual thinness instead of asking whether the artist is eating enough, sleeping enough, recovering properly, maintaining strength, and actually performing well. K-pop companies love describing idols like athletes whenever they want fans to admire how hard they work. They train 12 hours a day. They are so disciplined. They are professional performers. Okay, then treat them like athletes. In actual sports medicine, chronically underfueling an athlete is not praised as discipline. It is recognized as something that can damage health and performance. Maybe K-pop could join the rest of us in the 21st century? And there is another reason this conversation matters so much. The audience is young. Millions of teenage girls watch these idols. They see women who are already very thin talking about going on diets before comebacks. They see fan comments praising somebody for becoming even smaller. They see before and after pictures presented like weight loss automatically equals improvement. They see articles talking about legendary visuals after somebody loses weight. What exactly do you think a 14-year-old girl learns from that? If this already thin woman apparently needed to lose more weight to become beautiful, then what am I supposed to look like? That is why I hate when people act like these beauty standards exist in a vacuum. They do not. They teach people what is considered valuable. And then we act shocked when young fans start restricting food because they want an idol body. But the solution is also not going to the other extreme. I do not want people looking at naturally thin women and screaming, "Eat a burger." That is still body shaming. That is still strangers deciding what somebody else's body is supposed to look like. I do not want every female idol forced to become curvier either. That would just be the same controlling behavior in another direction. The problem is the idea that there should be one correct body in the first place. Some women naturally have tiny waists. Some women have bigger thighs. Some have broader shoulders. Some carry more fat around their stomach. Some have curves. Some barely have any. Human beings are not photocopies. And yet K-pop sometimes acts like every female idol needs to fit into the exact same sample size outfit, or the universe will collapse. I would much rather watch somebody who looks strong, energetic, and comfortable on stage than somebody who has been dieted down so aggressively that fans are celebrating how tiny her waist looks, while she is clearly struggling for energy. And again, because people online apparently need every sentence repeated 10 times, looking thin does not prove somebody is unhealthy. I am criticizing the culture that constantly rewards shrinking women, not diagnosing specific idols. The message of that culture is obvious. Smaller is better, thinner is prettier, less food means more discipline. And I think that message is garbage. Your body is not supposed to be punished into fitting a comeback concept. Your natural cycle should not become collateral damage because somebody at a company decided your thighs looked slightly bigger on camera. And if somebody's healthy body happens to be extremely thin, fine. If somebody's healthy body is larger, also fine. But if maintaining the aesthetic requires chronic restriction, rapid weight loss, overtraining, and hormonal dysfunction, then maybe we need to stop praising the result. Because when a normal biological function disappears because the body is trying to conserve energy, that is not body goals. That is a warning sign. And I think K-pop desperately needs to learn the difference.